Welcome to the Expert's Journey podcast, where we're all about creating your path to impact. Join your hosts, Dixie Mary Carlton from Indie Expert Publishing and Mr. Web Marketing Brad Houck, as we look at how you can grow your business and influence by leveraging your knowledge for profit. Welcome back to the Expert's Journey. I'm Brad Houck and I'm here with my co-host, Dixie Carlton. Did you know that your published book can be the key to landing more speaking gigs and that those gigs can help you sell even more books? In today's episode, we're looking at leveraging your books to land more speaking gigs and vice versa. Whether you're an author, speaker, or someone just looking to become both, we'll show you how to use these tools to simplify and amplify your authority, grow your audience, and open new doors. Let's go. Good morning, Dixie.
Good morning, Brad. How are you going?
I'm going good. So this is an area of your expertise today. So I'm going to ask some rather delving questions and we'll see if you can answer them all.
Let's dig deep, see where we end up. Okay,
first question. From your experience, how has publishing a book helped you personally in landing speaking gigs?
Well, that's such a great question. I want to broaden my answer to say it's not just about whether I've landed speaking gigs, because I don't pursue being a speaker as my primary objective with writing books. I write books to help other people come to me to get help with them doing their books. So as long as my books are educating people, that's my knowledge, that's what I do, then my books are working for me. And sometimes that does relate to getting speaking opportunities, which is fantastic. And I feel strongly that to be someone who coaches authors through the before, during, and after process of a book, that I need to have a good understanding and credibility as a speaker as well. So I do focus on speaking. The fact that I have written books does seem to help people to understand that, yes, I have that level of knowledge and expertise. So I always make sure that I lead with the fact, if I'm pitching for a speaking opportunity, that I am a best-selling author of books on that topic. So that's helpful. What I notice with many of the authors and the clients that I work with is that if they are using their book as leverage to get themselves onto stages, because, I work on the pages to stages concept, then you use the book by saying, this is my content. By the way, I can speak on this topic, but if you want to really get the rest of the information that I would like to share with your audience, then I can make my book or excerpts of my book available to your audience when you're booking me. And that's a really good way of saying you're not just getting me for 45 minutes on a stage, you're also getting this additional content that has already been well developed, edited, and made shareable. So it's a good win-win for people that are booking speakers if those speakers had books.
So what do you think makes a book stand out to event organisers when they're choosing speakers?
Oh, I think you'd have to ask that question of the organisers, because sometimes it's really hard to know how they think. But I think if you have a book that is well developed, well promoted, has quality written all over it. So from the look of the cover, the way it's developed on the inside, how it's performing. I think a lot of people now, if they know that the speaker has a book, they will go and check that book out on Amazon, or they'll request a copy of it as part of their pitching process. So they'll look at the quality of the book and they'll see whether or not it's going to stand up to their inspection and make them feel confident that you as a speaker have really good knowledge of not only your own content and your topic, but in a way that is ultimately shareable at high quality.
So are there particular types of books or genres that seem to align better with speaking, do you think? I mean, you've worked with a lot of speakers.
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I think overall, it depends entirely on the content and the topic that you work with. So for example, if you're doing a book about, women over 40 leading their best lives through menopause, then you're going to be working with conference organisers who, have women as their primary audience. If you're going to be doing a book where it's all about leadership and change management, then you're going to be delivering that to a completely different kind of market, different kind of audience. So it depends entirely on who you think your market is. When I'm working with any author, we start with the end in mind. How is this book going to impact, can turn up to? Do you want to get paid to speak? Do you want to just share a message? Do you want to inspire a group of people to make a change or just come to you for coaching? So your purpose around your speaking also has to be thought about when you book, because you can release a book that's going to get you in front of all of the big medical conference organisers or university conference organisers, but a lot of them don't pay very well. So you've got to think about the whole big picture.
Exactly.
With the end in mind.
So if you were to give advice to some speakers who haven't written a book yet, but are considering it to boost their credibility, what are some of the key things you'd bring up for those people?
So for someone who's thinking about doing a book, and I spoke about this in Bali at the recent GSS conference, if you're going to write a book, you've got to think about 3 R's: relevance, rankings, and reputation, reviews. If you've got a book where you can put that book onto something like Amazon and tell people that your book is a good performer and that they can see that it's got good reviews, then they're going to accept that you have expertise and knowledge about your topic in a way that is better than for someone who hasn't got a book. Because if you haven't got a book, then all you can send people to is your social media and your own website. So a book on Amazon, for example, that is well received, well ranked, and has good reviews is going to give you extra real estate that is high quality social proof. And so that is another good reason to do not just a basic book that's a desk thumper or something that is a $10 business card. You want to do a book that is decent enough quality that is going to inspire people that do check you out as an author to say, oh, well, obviously not just 10 people like this book. There's a lot of really good comments on here. So you've got to do a good quality book that actually performs for you on those kind of platforms.
So that brings me to one that I do hear quite often. And do you think that having a self-published book versus a traditionally published one makes any difference when you're pitching your book or you're telling people that you've got a book?
Oh, that's almost one of my favorite subjects. I could talk about this for an hour. Self-publishing your book is something that gives you a lot more control over what you can put in it. So, for example, if you want to put an advert in your book in various ways, you could call it an advert, a call to action or a specific way of saying that you're a speaker and this is what your speaking topics are, you are more likely to be able to do that well with a self-published book or a hybrid published book than with a traditional publisher. Because traditional publishers don't always get how it works for speakers as clients or authors. They have a set formula for how they think a book should look and how it should be developed. And having your own call to action where you're taking your readers to another website at the end of it doesn't always come into where they think the book should be positioned. They don't see the book as being an advertisement for you or as a marketing tool for you. They see it as being a book that is going to earn them income.
Yeah.
Based on what you can then do. So there are many, many pros and cons for using a traditional publishing option versus a self-publishing or a hybrid publishing option. My site, indieexpertspublishing.com, has got really interesting perspectives on all of those options. And I have been traditional published. I have been hybrid published. I have worked with traditional publishers. I've got many authors, traditional publishing and contracts. And I've also worked with a number of speakers who have had traditional publishing options and contracts, and they have bought their rights back from those traditional publishers to then republish their work under their own brand. So there are so many ways to address that question that I think I'll leave it there for now, because that is a whole big area to get into.
What are some specific strategies you're seeing work for authors to position themselves as expert speakers?
Well, for one thing, again, going back to the start with the end in mind, if you are writing a book and you talk about the fact that you speak to audiences or that you coach on these topics or these issues, or that you refer to the fact that when I was speaking at this event, this question was asked, you can put that sort of information into your content. This is part of your story. Telling stories about some of the people that you may have worked with as a result of speaking at an event. or coaching or training in some manner, you can make the point that you are a professional speaker, trainer, or coach within the content of your book in very, very clever ways without it feeling like the person is reading a brochure. And I think that's the point. When you're looking at doing a book for yourself, you want to make it sound that you have authority, you have expertise, and you have a lot more than just what's in those pages to share. You are on a stage, you want to make sure you don't just have the limited amount of 45 minutes worth of content to share what you're talking about by reading your books.
Absolutely. You can, inject into the conversations things like, in my book, I talk about this,
Exactly.
and, even, I've seen people who have pull up banners on the side of the stage with their book, best-selling Amazon author, things like that.
Absolutely.
So there's certainly a lot of stuff that you can do. Another one talking about being on stage is actually getting a photograph of you on stage with your book.
Yes.
As well. Again, that credibility, social media content, little videos of you doing that. So I think it's kind of a symbiotic sort of thing. The book can help you get gigs, but it can also help you set up your expertise. And then being on stage can sell books, as we well know. It's not an uncommon way to sell more books is actually to take books with you when you speak and sell them, when you get off stage. I've done it many times. And
but
it's,
what you can also do is you can get someone at the end of your presentation holding up a copy of your book and saying, I've just seen Brad speaking. I managed to grab a copy of his book straight afterwards, and I'm so excited because I want to go home now and read this and really dive into more of what he was talking about today. Great presentation. Thanks very much, Brad. Now that is a short video testimonial to go on any of your marketing materials. Is a really good way of convincing the people who are going to book you next time to get you and your books, and to also even suggest to them, well, if you would like to, I will make sure that a sample of my book or the entire book is available to your audience members at the end of my presentation via a download code or via, a printed version that goes in their goodie bag. There's lots of ways that you can get people to talk about how great your presentation was and your book.
Absolutely. I've got one friend who, sells books as part of her speaking package.
Well,
she makes it part of the deal. By the way, if you'd, like to pay me this much extra, I'll make sure that everyone in the room gets a free copy of my book.
yeah.
And so, it adds credibility to the organization that's running the event. It's a nice bonus, that people are getting for no cost. Well, obviously it's built into the cost of the event, but, it's not like they feel like they're paying, they're getting a free book, and it, fills out those goodie bags that sometimes events have with something more solid than other people who are on stage are giving people.
And sometimes you can do it so that if you order, for example, through Ingram Spark, you can order print on demand to be shipped directly to where the event is going to be held. You can even have something really cool go into the front of the first page of the book by the person organizing the conference or by yourself as a personal note with logos or whatever into the front of the book specifically for that conference. And just, you don't even have to do anything except turn up, make sure that the boxes are there or that they've been, delivered out to the audience members, one on every seat, just as you're about to start. And you don't have to worry about shipping them in. You don't have to carry them in your luggage.
Absolutely. The other thing I think too, and we're talking about leveraging our books to get speaking engagements, books can be very good business cards. And if you want to write a good introduction sales type letter to different organizations who run conferences and then include your book as part of that package that you send to them, it can be a really good door opener. On the other hand, some people will read it and that might make a difference in their life. Even if you don't get a speaking engagement, it could also be part of a slow burn. They might not be able to take you this year, but next year they'll think, oh, yeah, that person sent us a book. We should put them down as possible for next year.
Well,
and, what they've written is really interesting. So, the books do more than just, I suppose, instant, gratification. Sometimes they sit on a shelf for years and then people see them and go, oh, yeah, I remember this. I've got books that people have given me that I haven't read. And then a year later, I picked it up and read it. And it brings me back, it brings them back to the front of my mind and their expertise and kind of go, oh, wow, that's really interesting.
by the same token, you can see a lot of people go to these conferences and they've got a low budget book or a low quality book.
Mm.
And if they've got lack of space in their luggage, they're going to leave the book behind. So if you're going to do a book for that kind of purpose, you have to make sure it's a good quality book. And ideally using, digital options is going to be easier as well. But
absolutely.
You can also say to the conference organizer, hey, after the event, 7 days later, I'll run a webinar for all of the attendees that want to turn up and get another version or an additional level of what I was talking about in my keynote or in my breakout session. And for those people, I will make available a free copy of my book. That way you know that you're getting people who are already really engaged in what you've been saying to turn up and to love it and to become even more raving fans of what you're talking about.
Yeah,
so,
and you don't always cover everything that's in your book when you're on stage. You take a small portion. So you could say, I'm going to run a webinar or something for your people on chapter 2, and you could take a specific chapter and talk about that with them, which might be an ideal topic or it might be chapter 5. Doesn't matter. It's up to you.
You have to be thinking about the whole authority journey, or the expert's journey, I should say, as being it's about from pages to stages, but it's also about from stages to pages. It's so intertwined. And there are so many ways to get leverage on one side to the other and back again. But you actually have to think about it again. I keep going back to this comment. Start with the end in mind. Why are you writing this book? What is it that you want to have happen? And how are you going to get leverage on it when it's done? How are you going to get the reader to take action? Or how are you going to get the audience member to delight in the book?
Yeah, exactly. You're trying to get the best result for yourself and for the audience member and for the conference organizer because in the end they're booking you. So everything you can do helps. But, from my perspective, I've always liked to have a book. I've had a couple over the years. Obviously, Run Towards the Flames, my latest one, the $1 Billion Blueprint, which I'm in the process of actually updating to 2025 version, which is about digital marketing. And of course, Microcourse Profits, which I've just finished now. It's not at the same level as Run Towards the Flames, my leadership book. It's a more, generalistic book talking about how people can, create microcourses and what it'll do for them and how it can change their business. So I think, having really top level books is really important, and working with someone like yourself allows you to achieve that. But as you said, you need to work out what it is that you're trying to achieve when you start doing it, because that gives you an idea of the level of quality and content and editing and all of those other things that go into a book, that what you actually need for that book.
In addition to that, I think you've just touched on something that is relevant in respect of your Run Towards the Flames book is a book about leadership. So that's going to put you, that's a great book for you when you're speaking to business groups. It's harder to find a audience of any significant size who wants to learn about, creating micro courses. So that I know is your book that is specifically a lead generation magnet for ensuring that people know that that's what you can do to offer them more of what your services are, right? So you would use those books differently.
Absolutely.
But you could still have all of those books on Amazon, still having reviews, etc. Because when people are looking at you as speaker on for your leadership conference, for example, they're going to see that you are not just a one-hit wonder. They're going to see several other books that have also got good quality, relevant information that they may say, you know what, this is not necessarily the book that we're going to want all of our audience members to have, but we can still see that you are not just someone who's only been doing this for 5 minutes and, you've got your eye on the short game, not the long game.
Yeah, look, I think writing books is one of those things I do enjoy. It's a lot of hard work. It's good to work with a professional like yourself. Definitely makes it easier. But also, I think, as you said, you need to understand the different types of books. Is it a lead generation or is it a real book? And that changes how you perceive it, but also how you use it. The lead generation's for generating leads. It can be a giveaway if you want it to be. It's really up to you what you do with that. Whereas when you put your heart and soul into a book, like my leadership book, you're talking about something that's got so much more depth. And from a speaker's perspective, it's just an entirely different thing. They're not even in the same category, except they're both books. And I think that's something we've got to understand, is how we draw the line between the two.
Yes, exactly. And again, you've got to think about what it is that you're trying to achieve. You're not going to use your micro workshops book as a means of pitching yourself to speak at conferences. It's not going to work that way. But if you are someone who only does a series of lead magnets, at some point you have to actually say, right, now I need to write a high quality book that is going to stand on its own in a completely different way. And these other books are servicing me in my career in different ways. So
absolutely. I think it also comes down to which conferences you're looking at. So, for example, if I'm talking about leadership during change, Run Towards the Flames is designed for that market, for leaders. But then if I'm talking to an opportunity audience or a small business audience or other speakers even, and that's GSS or something, Microcourse Profits is really written for them. It's a different audience entirely. It's not even the same audience. So you can produce books for different audiences depending on what you want to teach people or what you want to expose people to. So it's not always about, it's only this or that. You can't do both. I think you can do both. You've just got to think about how you're using them and be really specific in your marketing.
Absolutely, 100%. And again, that comes back down to the whole thing of planning, doing some real thinking and planning and strategically developing what you're going to do with your content, where you're going to put it, and how you're going to make it work for you. And that's the part that I really love doing the most with people that I work with. Let's get around the whiteboard and figure out what the big plan is and how we're going to make it work for you.
Exactly. And work out how you're going to leverage that book from the start, not halfway through, not at the end. Now we've got a book. What are we going to do with it? Let's face it, this is about leverage. This is about opening big doors and, making a future for yourself and helping a lot of people in the process. So definitely you look at your big authors and you can see this flow of books as they move through their life, and you can see how their topics change, but you can also see how they're helping their audience with this stuff. So when you sit down to whiteboard with you, it's so important that we do take all that into consideration.
And I'm the first to admit that I'm a diverse author. I've written about a number of subjects, but I still have a core series of books that are specifically aimed towards getting people to understand what I do and how I do it. So start with the draft From Idea to Authority and Authority Island are the books that I use and talk about when I'm speaking and publishing. But I still have other books that are completely different topics that occasionally I'll get a speaking opportunity for. But I don't push those in the same way as the books that I use in that series to get the work that I do.
And I mean, you do fiction as well, which is another genre entirely, which has nothing to do with this, but it just goes to show you can be versatile if you want to be creative. It doesn't mean you have to be locked into something. You can do what you like.
Yeah. I like to sort of swim in various lanes at different times, but, that's all part of the fun of it.
Exactly. Well, I think we've covered a lot there today, so we might wrap up this pod. Thanks for joining Dixie and I on the Expert's Journey. Remember, your book can open doors to speaking gigs, and speaking gigs can boost your book's success. It's all about leveraging your expertise to create impact. If you've got any questions or thoughts, please drop us a line, and we're only too happy to do that. If you like this episode about books, please like, subscribe, and share the podcast. If you need help writing a book, see Dixie at indieexpertspublishing.com. And if you want help with AI or SEO, book a free chat with me at mrwebmarketing.com. We appreciate you tuning in, and we look forward to having you with us again soon.
And one more thing before we go. If you have loved what we've been talking about today and you still want to know more about this, if you write into us on mrwebmarketing.com, I will make sure that they get a free copy of the Authority Island book that does help to explain a lot more of what we've done.
Okay, so they can go to indieexperts.publishing.com or you can contact me through mrwebmarketing.com and we'll make sure you get that.
Referencing this podcast, and we'll get you a free digital copy of Authority Island.
Excellent. Okay. Sounds like a great offer. Thanks, Dixie.
Thanks, Brad.